So my great-grandfather and grandfather were avid anglers. It skipped a generation. My father, I think I've seen him have a rod in his hand one time. But actually his best friend was an avid angler, and so they both kind of got me into freshwater fishing. And my first fish was on a bamboo cane pole, and it was a brim.
Wow, brim.
And I was probably 5 or 6.
Okay. Kelsey.
I'll have to echo the bamboo cane pole. You learn a lot about rod action from those. But yeah, my family, I grew up in a very outdoorsy family. We had an RV where we would travel the entire U.S., and my parents just kind of let us go free, and that really inspired me to be outdoors and in just the wild. And you know, fishing for me is just the next step as to inserting yourself into nature and the outdoors. So that was kind of where I came from, but all about the cane pole.
Very cool. Pamela.
I'll have to echo that, not with the bamboo, but with the brim. My first fish was a bluegill at the age of 3, and it was on the typical Barbie rod.
Oh.
Yes, love the Barbie rod. You could do so much with that. But I think my dad, I had an older brother, and he got to do all the hunting and fishing to begin with. And by the time I came along, he didn't take me hunting, he just took me fishing. Give me a Barbie rod, and I'm good.
All right, dads, you heard that. Take those daughters out fishing and buy Barbie rods, all right? Okay, the next one is, what's the biggest fish that you've ever caught?
Start with me?
Start with you.
Mine was a Goliath grouper in Fort Myers, Florida, estimated about 350. And I think the best part about it was the charter captain was telling us, because it was a charter, we were like, you know, it's a bucket list item. We all want to catch a Goliath. But he said the craziest story he ever had was he had a guy out from Alabama who was a noodler. And so once they caught the Goliath, he was like, you know, take your pictures, let me know when you're done, and we'll put it back. And they had to get the guy to the emergency room because he had put his arm in the mouth of a Goliath grouper because he wanted to see what it felt like.
Oh, no.
But yes, mine's a Goliath grouper.
Wow, great. Tanya.
So mine was about 2 years ago in May. It was a approximately 200-pound blue marlin, and we were about 75 miles offshore here of Charleston, and it was pretty exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. Kelsey.
I might change it a little bit because for me, I've caught really big fish, but for me, it all depends on how I catch it. I've caught big tuna, big marlin, but for me, one of my most special, biggest catches was when I was down in Louisiana. I caught a 44-inch redfish on my fly rod. So that was, you know, big popper fly, casting it out, waiting for that big bite. You know, I couldn't sleep that night because I just kept replaying it in my head. So for me, you know, it was more about the experience of the catch rather than the size of the fish.
I can tell you, I've witnessed Kelsey catching fish on Influencer Day. She outfished a couple of other male influencers in the audience, so she did a great job. All right, Pamela, what about you?
Again, I think that's a little bit of a subjective question because if you catch a 10-inch native brook trout and then compare it to a 7-foot shark, which one is bigger? Obviously the shark, but it's the experience and having to wade around in the streams. And if you saw the streams that some of these fish are in, I think the brook trout is probably the biggest in my mind because it's experience, not necessarily the size of the fish.
Yeah, very cool. All right, I'm going to break from some traditional fishing questions and go to some questions that are really important to women. Well, just one in particular, and I think you guys know I'm going to ask this, and this is certainly an audience question as well. So one of the most important things when you're fishing and you're a woman is how are you going to go to the bathroom on the boat, right? So we just want to go ahead and address this and get it out right now. So ladies, who wants to take that one first? I know you have some good answers.
I'm not shy because, you know, I'm on the water by myself a lot of times.
That's how you go to the bathroom on the boat.
Right.
You're not shy.
I'm not, exactly. Modesty out the window. I mean, we all have to go. It's just, you know, it's part of nature. So, you know, the big thing is think about if you are going to have some ladies on the boat, this will be an issue. The bucket is kind of a simple method if you don't have a potty. They even make nice little lids that you can put on the bucket. You can put a little pool noodle.
Yeah, I was going to say the noodle.
And then really the easiest way, I think that a lot of us, we actually discussed this earlier, is hanging your rear, kind of off the gunnel. So you just kind of slide your, your pants down and, make sure everybody's facing forward away from you and just kind of do the shimmy. Hold on, though. And I won't lie, I've actually done the back somersault out of the boat, thankfully by myself and nobody saw it. But yeah, hanging the rear over the gunnel is probably the easiest thing along with the bucket. If you're on a larger boat, you might have the luxury of an actual potty, in the maybe center console. Or if you're on a sport fisher, hey, I'll go with anybody any day on that. There's a full-on, full master bath that you've got the whole potty and shower. So
If you're offshore and you have twin engines, the easiest way is just tuck it back in between both the motors. Put your hiney on, tuck it in between the motors. Just tell all the guys to the bow.
That's
sorry.
definitely the best way.
Yeah, absolutely.
But before you do any of this, because we run our own boats, you say, ladies' room is open. And that means everybody goes to the front of the boat and you hang your butt off the back.
Yep.
That's it. And it doesn't need to be a thing.
And I know you have an opinion on toilet paper or no toilet paper.
No toilet paper.
Yeah.
You just shimmy it.
Yeah.
it's drip dry.
Yep.
Shimmy, shimmy, shake, drip try.
Yep.
It's a-
And make sure you don't have somebody beside you in the boat, in another boat. And if you are, just like, hey, please just turn around. I gotta go. I really gotta go. It's more than likely they've seen it anyway, but hey, just give them a warning.
So now you know, gentlemen, make sure you prepare for women on your boat, right? So most important question of the day, right? Okay, back to some fishing. This one I'm going to start, Kelsey and Tanya and then Pamela. What advice do you guys have for other women or young girls that are interested in pursuing a career in fishing or the outdoors industry? Pamela, you want to start?
I'll start. If you're young, high school, volunteer. We have so many wonderful programs, not just within DNR, but there's other agencies and other programs where you can get really good, relevant experience volunteering. And it looks great on your resume and if you decide to go to college, your college application. When you go to college, make sure you take the relevant classes if you want to stick into fisheries or fisheries outdoors industry, if that's what you're really interested in. And talk to people that are in this career and find out if that is exactly what you want to do. Don't just assume it. Just talk to people and get relevant advice.
Kelsey.
I think that's a really broad question. I think when you talk about the outdoor industry and the fishing industry in general, you can work at South Carolina DNR and have a degree in biology. And, that's how I started out. I thought I wanted to be a fisheries biologist, which is what I did for a while. But for me, the next step for me was moving into the industry. Recreational fishing is something that's connected my entire career, whether it be working for the state government or the federal government to now working for Shimano and industry. Recreational fishing is the thing that I love. So I think before you ask, where do you want to work? What do you want to do? What is your passion? What are you excited about? What do you want to do every day? That's what I would encourage little girls and, little boys and whoever, what gets you excited every day? And then be an advocate for yourself. If you want to go out on a boat, contact people. Hey, do you need a deckhand? Do you need someone to help you with rigging stuff? And now for me, as I said, I started, working for the state government and the federal government, and now I work in marketing for Shimano. That's kind of a drastic change to people from the outside, but really it's all about education and outreach and talking to people about what you're doing, what you're selling, what you're advocating for, and, networking, meeting people, getting out on the water, and really getting experience. But I think, it all starts with the passion of why you want to be in it for the first place, because I think if fishing relates and comes down to one thing, it's authenticity. And I think people really relate to that. So I think find your fire and your passion, first of all.
Great. Tanya.
I mean, Kelsey kind of summed things up pretty well for us. But, you want to follow your heart. I've been a water rat forever and a day. I mean, I was born and raised here in Charleston, but I really didn't get into the fishing world heavily until probably the last 10 to 15 years. And I finally decided to, follow my passion. And I love being out on the water. I love sharing those experiences with friends, new people, family. And I think, we all get to go around one time, and we need to jump on these opportunities. Don't be afraid. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to try things. I think sometimes, we throw women in boxes and we throw men in boxes. And, if we look at each other collectively, just as we are as people and what our accomplishments are, we can go so much further, than looking at male, female, gender. We all have great places to go, and I think it's just a matter of, climbing that ladder, taking the steps, and doing what you need to do to get where you want to be, and, be successful in life. And at the end of the day, you go, hey, I love what I do. And that's what we all want to be able to do, is we want to get home and go, I love what I do every day. And if we can get to say that, man, we're living a great life.
Amen. That is so true. Good answers, guys. Okay, so we're here today. It's obviously Release Over 20. This is all about, fish conservation. So one of the questions that came in was, what are some of the conservation practices you use both on and off the water to help sustain healthy fisheries in the Lowcountry and beyond? Mandy, let's start with you.
Say this all the time, clean up your trash. Like, we literally, when we go fishing, we stop. If we see a bottle, we pick it up. There's so much
Put your mic up.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
Clean up your trash. Like, everything that came with you comes back with you. That's a big problem. And even like your mono or any of your leader, bring that in the boat. Don't just throw it in the water. That's one of our big practices. And if we see other people's trash and litter, we stop and pick it up.
Smart. Tanya?
Well, this is a Release Over 20 event, so I think, one thing I'm absolutely passionate about as an angler is I'm a huge proponent for catch and release. Nothing wrong with, keeping dinner. But if I'm out fishing and I have folks on the boat that do want to keep fish, I actually have the luxury of a couple of live wells. So I have one dedicated live well to those fish that we catch. And we try to cater and keep those fish nice and happy all day long, so that after we've been out on especially summer day when it's hot, everybody's tired, we get to the dock and I say, all right, guys, do y'all really want these fish? Do we want these fish? Are we going to eat these fish? Are we going to clean these fish? And that gives those fish the opportunity to hopefully go back into the drink if we're not going to. So it's just a way to be conscious the entire day, because oftentimes, you got a boatload of people and it's fun because they've never caught a fish before and they're like, we're going to have dinner tonight. Well, you've been on the water a long day and you don't want to do that. So hopefully we can let those fish go another day and for somebody else to catch. We live in a wonderful place here in Charleston, and fishing is a huge industry for us. It brings so much into the Lowcountry. So anything that we can do to help maximize that, all you folks are here today because it's important to you. And it's very important to, us up here on the platform. So just do your part, and, our kids down the road are going to be able to experience the same great, experiences that we have here.
Kelsey?
I kind of echo what she just said, but I think there's a big change in our thinking that needs to happen in terms of how valuable is a fish when I take it home versus the value of that fish if I put it back in the water. If I take a fish home, I eat it, that's kind of it. If I decide to release that fish, it now has the potential to spawn. It has the potential to get bigger, have other people catch it. It has the potential for our guides and our local industry to catch it. There's so much that fish can do if I put it back versus if I keep it. So for me personally, because I know a lot of our guides and industry rely on our inshore fisheries, I really try to practice catch and release for inshore. Then when offshore, a lot of what determines if I keep or release a fish is what is the likelihood or probability that fish is going to survive if I release it. So if I pull up a grouper from, I don't know, how many feet would you say?
300 feet.
300 feet. Is it going to survive? Probably not. So I will probably take that fish home. And the effort that it's taken to get out there, go on that trip, that is a lot of money and investment for me to harvest and take that fish home. So that's kind of what guides my thinking in terms of what I keep and what I release, and conservation practices. And as always, picking up trash, keeping our waterways clean. And I think something that a lot of people miss too is water quality. What do we need to do to keep our waterways clean so that the fish that are in the water, that they can survive and be healthy? I think it's a lot bigger picture and broader than what we typically think about in terms of, do I catch a fish or release a fish? But what can I do, my bigger practices?
Yeah, great. Great.
And real quick, Pam, I just wanted to, I actually did a post, I don't know, I think it was about a month ago, well, almost a month ago now. But we know that catch and release practices work. I caught a tagged redfish a year ago, and that fish has now, per Joey with DNR, has been caught 7 more times and released. So it shows that it works.
Yes.
It's amazing. But 7 times, that shows you how important that fish is to our environment.
That is cool when you get to see it, and it's like they send you. So if you catch and release one that's tagged, they will send you every single time how many times it's been caught. That's awesome to be like, that thing's still going.
That is so awesome. That's very cool. Pamela, you live this every day.
So catch and release is wonderful, and obviously you can tell it does work. But ethical angling, we want to know how, when you're holding the fish and you're going to release it, you got to know what to do in order to properly release it. You can release a fish and expect for it to swim away, but what happens after if you've held it out of the water for too long? So the less air exposure you can have with a caught fish and get it back into the water as quick as you can, the better chance of survival. And actually, Matt, my boss, is going to be giving a talk about this, and he can tell you anything you want to know about proper release and handling of fish. So that's something I do practice on the water, off the water. I have to pack out what you pack in. You want to always leave it better than you found it.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys. So let's talk artificials for just a minute, all right? Okay, so you want to stay out of the artificial conversation? Yeah?
I can try if it's freshwater or American shad. I'm going to resort to my experts over here because I'm just now getting into the saltwater artificial fishing.
All right. Okay, Kelsey, let's start with you. What are your go-to artificials when targeting reds and trout? Oh, she's not. You don't want to give it up, or no?
Artificial soft plastics, hard? Or are we talking flies? What do we want to talk
as
about?
artificials.
All right. So we'll go soft plastics.
Okay, soft plastics.
So recently, with the release over 20, I've found the Texas eye jig to be like fire. Because it has an articulated hook so that if you put the plastic on, no matter when you're moving your bait, even if it hits down and you're letting it do a slow fall, it's always moving, always. So there's always action in the jig. Okay. So that has been really, really game-changing for me. And then, so for trout and redfish, I always like to use like a white, maybe like 4-inch soft plastic. And just, moving around with the different twitches and jigs. Maybe I move it slow, maybe I move it quick. That's kind of where like science background comes in. It's like you're always doing an experiment, figuring out what they're going to do that day. And then for reds, I really like to use kind of like a gold and a black, or a black and purple has been really key for me with artificials.
Cool. All right, Tanya?
All right, well, I'm a Southern girl, and I know everybody here likes fried chicken, right? I'm going to toot a couple horns. Huge fan of Z-Man baits and I Strike. Again, I'm going to match Kelsey, and the Texas Eye by I Strike is a phenomenal jig head to use. Because we can rig those things weedless. So for me, the Z-Man jerk shrimp in the fried chicken, which is kind of a tan, sparkly color, and it's got a chartreuse on it. And we all know the saying in fishing is, ain't no use if there's no chartreuse. So, but it's a great bait. I can definitely tell you, redfish and trout and actually flounder, they all like that bait. So that one is always in the tackle box with me. And then I'm also a big proponent of any of the jerk style baits. So your jerk shads, might do a streak Z, which is even a little bit smaller. But any of your jerk baits, typically you can use all year long here, because those are mimicking our shrimp as well as our small little like glass minnows and whatnot. So I think if you've got that in your arsenal, you're going to catch some fish.
All right. Thank you. Andy?
I'm going to go trout trick all day for trouts. Purple's my favorite color on that one. And it all just depends on what time of year it is. If we're talking fall, then yeah, definitely the purple trout trick for a trout. And we're going for reds, I will typically put on electric chicken. So,
Okay. All right. Great. So one last question from the followers, and then we'll open up in case there's a question from the audience. So this we addressed a little bit, but it says the question: fishing has historically been a male-dominated sport. What are some ways anglers can collectively help break down the gender barriers within fishing? So, Pamela?
I'll start. So we have started within DNR a women's only fishing clinic to help get women comfortable with a rod. They don't have to ask their significant others, what is this? How do I catch a fish? What is setting the hook? They can feel comfortable in this own environment. Unfortunately, I don't provide the wine, but with that said, that doesn't mean I'll partake in it if you bring it. I'm just kidding. But we want women to be comfortable enough to ask questions and to be comfortable enough on their own to kind of figure out everything there is about fishing, because you can't learn everything in one day. And then we have all these wonderful women up here that will love to answer questions, and maybe if one day they had an opening on their boat, they're like, hey, you want to come fishing with me? Come on. As long as you got your fishing license and you know to have a good time.
Yep. Great answer. Great. Kelsey, what do you think?
I have a lot to say about this.
Okay.
I didn't want to go too long.
This is something that is like very personal to me, but also, I'm very passionate about. I couldn't tell you the amount of, it's a bunch of women up here on this stage, but I think we need to start having more conversations of everyone together. As Tanya said before, but I can't tell you the amount of dads and fathers that reach out to me and say, I love watching your content. My little girl watches your stuff every day. It's so amazing that she has someone like you to look up to know that this is her world too. And I think, one of my favorite pros that I fished with down in Louisiana, I was talking to her yesterday, and she said, people always want to say I'm a fisherwoman or I'm an angler. And she said, no, I'm a fisherman. At the end of the day, I'm a fisherman. And that's what all of us are. It doesn't matter if we're male or female. And I say, treat your little girls the same as you would treat your little boys. Give them the opportunities. If you have a chance to go out on your boat and you're a woman, ask how you can rig a rod. Ask how you can tie a line. Step up. Don't wait for someone to do something for you. There's no reason that we shouldn't be involved in this as well. And it's a really interesting time right now, because I feel like it's almost a kind of changing of the guard. As we have a lot of encouraging and empowering and amazing men who are so supportive. I can't tell you the amount of people who have reached out to me who have just, helped me along the way with my boat or, fishing or anything. And that's so great, but there still are some people who have kind of the old boys club mentality. Like, I've been escorted off a property before because I'm a woman and I was trying to fish a pond. But I will say that for every great experience I have, those bad ones are very minor. And so I say, keep encouraging your little girls and encourage women on your boat and treat them the same as you would treat anyone else. That's all anybody wants. We just all want to be treated the same.
Great. Thank you. It's great. Tanya.
It's the reason I finally just started to run some charters. I got my captain's license, and I wanted a way to be able to encourage more women to get out there. You know, you don't want to get on the boat with your husband or your boyfriend or your significant other. You know, I'd love to get you out. I want you to feel confident. I want you to enjoy it. It is, I tell people all the time, getting out on the water for me, it's my church. You know, I believe in God, yes I do, but man, when I get out there, it opens your eyes to a whole nother world. So it's just, you know, we all have opportunities and we need to step up to the plate and not be afraid to do it. So get out there, don't be shy.
Mandy, thank you.
I would just like to say that on my Instagram we do Girls Day, and it is all girls. So it's always, and it doesn't even matter. We don't have to be on a boat. Sometimes we're on a dock, but it's just about getting more females into it. And yeah, some females get into it for the wrong reasons, but you know what? If the more you can draw them into it, and then they're like, hey, I actually like this, that's a win for us. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a very male-dominated sport for the most part. So the more females we can get into it, better it is.
I have one more thing to say on this.
All right, Kelsey, what is it?
Come on, Kelsey.
I also think, you know, it's always like, oh, come on, get more girls in fishing. But give them the tools to get involved in fishing. Like, there's so much shame right now around, you know, if you can back a trailer, if you can drive a boat. Just go out and do it. Swallow your pride. Know that you're going to make mistakes and just go do it, you know. I have so many people ask me, how'd you learn how to do this? How'd you learn how to do that? I didn't. I just went and did it, and I figured it out. And I think, yeah, it's great to have women on the boat and everything, but teach them how to trailer. Get out and trailer.
Not only that, but if you're a female on the boat and you don't own the boat, learn how to help. Like, learn how to tie like a buoy on, like help like tie a line. Learn how to do the easy stuff, and that helps the guys out, and they'll be more willing to help you and take you as well.
Yeah. Kelsey, anything else? I know
No,
you
I'm
got
good.
one more thing in there, right?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, patience. We haven't even talked about backing a boat. That's right. Either the show or part of the show, or you're watching the show. That's always
Bottom line, just swallow your pride and go and do it, because the experience you will have on the water, don't let people take that away from you.
Yeah.
Kelsey,
Don't let being embarrassed or any of that, don't let that take away your time and potential to go out there and get it.
Yep. Great advice. Mandy.
Kelsey, what's that coffee mug? Sorry for the unkind words I said while I was docking the boat.
Well, I just go out with my dog, so he can't actually speak.
All right. Any questions from the audience? Anybody? Okay. I don't think so. Hopefully I'm not mean. Thank you, and please follow these fishermen, anglers, and they've all really special people, and they've contributed so much to women in this industry. So thank you all, and we really appreciate you being a part of this. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.